Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in. Another wonderful, excellent episode of Ask the Home Care Expert. I'm your residential expert, David Posner. I'm the VP of Operations Business Development here at HomeCare.com. I've been getting some great questions throughout the week. Today's topic is going to be about interviews, specifically with interviewing caregivers and interviewing home care agencies. And I had a situation earlier this week. I was with a family and needed a little bit extra help. They're interviewing two caregivers for what ended up being a live-in shift. And so they just wanted a little bit of help. So I thought it might be a great idea to actually share it with everybody out here today of the different questions and how to set up for and prepare for interviewing caregivers, because this is someone that's going to be in your home. And that's the big thing about caregivers and working with home care companies is this is someone that's now going to be coming into your home or coming into your parents' home, and you want to make sure that they're safe. You want to make sure that they get along, because most companies have a minimum of 3 or 4 hours a day. You really want to make sure that there's good conversation, good personality. If your mom or dad likes to engage in conversation, like to walk around, you want a caregiver that's up and conversational. If your mom or dad wants to, sit in the corner and be quiet, you need to make sure you find a caregiver that's just that's going to be, quiet and leave them alone, able to help them when they need it, but also make sure they kind of give them their space. So the interview process is really, really important. Many people have gone through it for their jobs, maybe some for school as well, but interviewing a caregiver is a little bit different. Interviewing home care companies is a little bit different. So let me share with you a couple tips that I shared with the family I was working with earlier this week. Hopefully they help you out. As always, if you have additional questions you want to add, you have any comments, please put them in the comments section below. Really appreciate it. And happy to answer them or answer them in the following week, because I'm here every Friday at 1 o'clock answering your questions. So let's start with the interview process. So if you now have worked with hopefully a home care company, or you found a caregiver or a few caregivers that you like, and you're bringing them into your home to do some interviews. Before you bring them to home, obviously you want to do some research. Again, I'm going to relate a lot of this to the job interview process because I think it's very similar. So first and foremost, you want to do as much as you can on your own. So you want to be you want to do your own, background checks if the company hasn't done so. You want to check their credentials and check education and obviously check references. And a lot of times, most of the state websites, so here in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, you can simply go on to, Maryland Health Department nursing site or DC nursing site, be able to look up licenses. Again, a lot of the companies should be sending you this type of information, but you can always find a lot of information on Google. If you have the name of the caregiver, you can also just do your own randomly checks. Go onto Facebook and see what some of the pictures may look like. Go on to, if they have a LinkedIn or Twitter, or just try to get an overall background of the caregivers if that's available as well. And then you want to see if you can get the references from the caregiver. So who have they worked with in the past? What type of situations have they been part of? So maybe they've worked at a Sunrise or an assisted living facility, and they've worked in independent or assisted living or memory care. First off, do you know the difference between each? Because there are 3 different departments. Independent, the residents there are going to be very, as I say, independent. They're going to be able to do a lot of the things on their own. Assisted, again, more assisted. Where the ratio might be 4 residents for every nurse. And of course, memory care unit, that's more involving dementia or Alzheimer's, different diseases, so the memory or cognitive issues. So the caregiver will have a completely different background dealing with memory issues. So understanding maybe what department they may have worked in if it's in a facility and what they may have done. Simply putting down they worked at a Sunrise versus someone that actually worked in cooking is completely different than somebody that worked in assisted living. So again, understanding where and how long. Were they only there for 3 months? And that might not be a bad thing. They might have realized that they want to work with families. Or if it's 3 months, why did they end? So trying to get a feel for their background and what they did and where they worked is extremely important. We also have this great sheet up on our website, 7 things to do before engaging caregivers. You can find that on our HomeCare.com website. So please, download that. It's got some great sites, and a lot of things that I'm referencing is also going to be, you're going to be able to use that there. And then, the other thing is, have somebody with you sometimes is always helpful. If possible, if you can record the interview, just gives you a nice balance. If you're working with a company, so again, myself with HomeCare.com, I'll go out in a lot of the interviews and be able to help them. I allow the family member to ask the questions, but at the end, they might ask me, hey, David, is there any questions I didn't ask? I'm going to get into the asking of the questions in just a little bit, but kind of having that second ear there, something to be able to kind of see how they're interacting is extremely important. So if you can get a second person, family member or neighbor, is always extremely beneficial when beginning the interview process. So you've done your background checks, the person checks out, they've got their license, they're up to date, you've checked the references, everyone says that they are good to go, you've done everything that you think you can. Now this person's coming in for an interview, or these two people are coming in for an interview, or three, however it might be set up. First and foremost, again, similar to a job interview, you want to have your questions laid out. You don't really want to come off the cuff. So you want to be able to have, again, 5 to 10 questions laid out, not yes or no type of questions, something that they can elaborate on. And the reason you want to have them written out is because when you're comparing several people, you want to be able to compare based off their answers to the same questions. And so if you're going off the cuff and you ask one person one thing and another person something else, it might be hard to say, oh, I like the answer to this one, but this one answered a different question this way. And so when you have everything written out, it's a lot easier to compare, one-to-one. So always try to write everything out. And at the end of each of them, make your own comments of what you thought. And besides answering the questions, you also want to see what their comfort level is. So the first thing I always do, or I always recommend when someone's coming into the home, is take them around the house. Again, this is where they're going to be for the next 4, 8, 12 hours, or even live-ins. Show them where the laundry room is. Show them where the bedrooms are. Show them the bathrooms. I had a caregiver a couple weeks ago that actually, looked in the bathroom and said, oh, I'm going to have to move her this way and then like this. And that was really insightful because the daughter who was taking us around had never thought about moving the family member in such a position. But once the caregiver, who had, again, 8 years of experience, she said, wow, that's a great idea. And it really boosted her level of respect and with the caregiver. So showing the caregiver around, you might actually learn something as far as how to do things. One of the really key questions, and I'm going to add in this later, is staying with bathroom, is the shower. The caregiver should be able to look at the shower and says, okay, will I have to get in the shower with the person? Is there a seat that they're going to be able to move them? How are they going to be able to move them? Are they going to have to pick them up? Is the person going to be able to just hold onto my hand? Maybe there's a bar grip. So showing them the bathroom and the shower and how the caregiver will actually give you advice and tips on how they might shower the person. Again, here you're going to be able to listen and see what type of experience they have with this type of things. Again, if we're dealing with someone with dementia or psychiatric issues, touching the body is going to be really, the caregivers have to be really careful on how they do it. So it's really important to listen to how the caregiver answers these questions, as well as just basic understanding of the house. Where's the bed? Where's the bathroom? Where's the laundry room? Showing them the kitchen. Where are the plates? How do you like things put away? This is them coming into your home. Show them how you like it, and you'll really you'll be surprised on how well they're going to try to follow your directions. They know that they're a guest in your home. They want the job. They're going to try to be the best possible. So hopefully that helps. The background type part of this. I want to talk about some of the questions because that's the real key here. And again, some of these great questions are coming right from our sheet, so feel free to download them on HomeCare.com. But you have the basic questions you want to ask. So what level of experience do you have? How far of a distance is this for you? Are you okay handling my mom who's got dementia, Parkinson's, mental health issues? Are you okay cleaning? So you want to get those easy questions out of the way. But then you want to talk about scenario type of questions. So scenario type of questions is, what are you going to do if my dad refuses to take his medicine? How are you going to handle it? And see how they respond. A caregiver with maybe not a lot of experience will say, well, I'm going to do anything I can. Hopefully I don't say shove it in the mouth, but keep urging, keep urging. An experienced caregiver might turn around and say, I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, maybe I'll wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I'll try again. So you'll hear the difference on how caregivers, especially in the situational questions, how they answer those completely differently. And it's really key to listen in. Another example is, my mom fell. How would you handle that? My mom's been a fall risk. Are you immediately going to call 911? Are you going to try to pick her up? Or are you going to ask her, what happened? How do you feel? Can you get up on your own? Do you need my assistance? A caregiver is always, a good caregiver should always ask her assistant, can I help you up first, versus just quickly going in and lifting them up and putting them back on a wheelchair or something like that. How does a caregiver spot problems and what do they do? So we work closely with hospice. This is a big deal with hospice because hospice doesn't want you calling 911 right away. They want you being able to talk to the nurse on call. They want you working with the hospice team because they might have medications that might have certain side effects. So they want you to be aware of it. So, good caregivers are going to say, hey, I noticed that a mom is starting to have dry mouth or something along that lines. How do they handle it? They, again, working with the nurse, get them water. If they notice a wound, so a lot of times we work with skilled care, PT, OT, or physical therapy, occupational therapy. How does a wound look? Is it getting better? Is it not getting better? A good caregiver is going to be able to relay that information. How do they relay that information? But again, basically what you want to do is you want open-ended questions. And then I always kind of like to end with some of the questions about personality, because I think not only is the skill set important, but the personality is important as well. So, what makes you a good caregiver? Now I've got 3 other caregivers. What makes you different than some of the other caregivers coming in here? Some caregivers, this might be their first interview and might not say, oh, I don't know. But some of the good caregivers who have been on several jobs are going to be able to say, look, I care for your mom and dad. I'm in this job because I had my mom and dad or my grandparents, I helped them out. And they'll be able to tell you, I do this because I love it, and I'm a really good caring person. I see their reactions. I'm a care type of person. So those are the type of answers that you're going to be listening for and really want to help them out with. Why did you decide to work with seniors is another big key question. We recently posted a video on our Facebook page of one of our really great caregivers, Juliet, who mentions that she just sees seniors and she just has a smile. She wants to help them. She loves them, loves working with seniors, and always has since she was a little girl. So having that passion for seniors is, again, things you're going to be able to listen for, and asking those types of questions of, brings out their personality. What do you like to do when you're not around here? Or what are some of the things, 4, 8, 12 hours is a long period of time. What are some of the activities that you like to do with some of the seniors you're working with? They say, sit there and read a book, you've got a quiet person. If they say they'd like to take walks around the neighborhood, maybe they noticed a lake kind of coming into the neighborhood. Maybe there's different day care centers that they like to go to. Again, an experienced caregiver is going to be knowing and looking for certain things and have answers to those questions, some of the answers that I mentioned earlier that might be able to be helpful. So that should kind of wrap up. And obviously, if you let them know, so as you wrap up the questions, let them know what you thought. Thank you so much for your time. I really thought you did a great job. I've got another caregiver, but I'm definitely going to let you know. Or if you didn't like the person, just be as nice as possible. Thank you so much for coming, and I really appreciate it. I'll get back with your company and let you know how it is. But give them some type of acknowledgement, appreciation for them coming out there and spending their time, a lot of times unpaid, and let them know what the next step is, that they're gonna that you're gonna contact them. And also, if I forgot to mention, let them ask you questions. Maybe they have certain ways of doing things, and they want to ask your permission. Is it okay if I do certain things certain ways? Allow them to answer questions for you too. So hopefully that gives you a nice wrap up. That's about I think 7 or 8 questions that you can ask them. It's also a nice little order of way of doing it. Showing them around the house, asking them some early questions to kind of get everything nice and smooth. How many years of experience, getting into some situational questions, and finally ending it with some personality questions is a nice, good way of working through it. If you want me to explain a little bit more, again, you can hit the comment section, and I'm more than happy to kind of go in a little bit further detail. I want to kind of I always put 2 in there. I always feel like I get rushed. But the second part of the questions I got this week were on home care companies. And I'm going to kind of roll through this pretty quick because I know we're kind of hitting the 15-minute mark. I'll try to stay within that 15 to 20 minutes. So when interviewing a home care company, similar to interviewing a caregiver, you want to do your own background. Check out the company's website, LinkedIn, Facebook page, if they have Twitter, whatever else social media they have. Take a look at it. See what type of information. Is it educational based, or are they basically saying, hey, come to us if you need care? And we just, so another key thing to do is, when you're asking questions or you're looking on their website, what are they telling you that they're specialized in, or what are their key points? For us, we have 40,000 caregivers on our platform, so we really push that we have specialties. We can get caregivers out there first and foremost. But most companies will just say that they have the best caregivers. Now, you can see the sign behind us. We have the most experienced and quality caregivers. But my guess is you'll probably see this, that every company is going to say that they have the best caregivers. So what makes them the best? Again, ours, most experienced, and have the best, quality. So they've been in situations, they know the difference. Ask for, again, same to another job interview, ask them references, other families that they've worked with, maybe different facilities that they've worked with, if they're working with a facility. Ask them about their, fill-ins. What happens if caregiver A doesn't show up? What's the situation? Is the caregiver calling me? Are they calling you? And how do they follow? How does that process go? How quickly can you get somebody here if that person doesn't show up? What if the person doesn't even call? Am I supposed to call you? Am I supposed to call the caregiver? How does that work? What type of oversight are there? What type of what background checks have you done on the caregivers? Is the company licensed and bonded and insured? Or the caregivers at least licensed, bonded, and insured? You want to know all this type of information anytime you work with any company. It's really important to make sure you get as much information about the company instead of just saying, hey, I need a caregiver here, can you handle it? You want to make sure that you're working with a smart, reputable company. And similar to caregiver questions, we have a great, I think you can see there are 9 questions your home care agency doesn't want you to ask. In yours, interviewing caregivers. So you want to have the ability to interview caregivers, regardless of the hours of shift. Resumes, references, reviews. One of the great things we do here is we have families can review all the caregivers. We're able to post those out. References, resumes, we can send out profiles. So we want to see if you can get a profile before someone's coming into your home. Backup, we kind of talked about that. Compensation, what's the cost for all of these things that are being provided. And status, how do I get updated status if there's going to be a change in the caregivers? Am I getting emails or phone calls or text messages? Is there a pricing difference between the level of care? So if my mom just needs a sitter there versus my mom is bed bound, customer service response times. And the other biggest thing, again, sticking with personality that we talked about with the caregivers, personality with the person you're talking to on the phone. You have that warm and fuzzy feeling that that person actually cares, or are you getting a sense of they're just trying to sell you caregivers? One of the things our team has always been extremely well trained on, understanding as much as possible. So not only are you going to be able to ask us questions, but we should be asking you as many questions as you're asking us. We should know, besides the basics of what your address is and phone number and hours, what's going on? How did we get there? Is this person fallen 3 times? Why does this person keep falling? Is it they're forgetting to take their medications? Well, that's a ding. We got to make sure we have a caregiver that has medication reminders. Is it fall? Ding. We got to have a fall prevention type of caregiver. Has this person had a history of strokes, dementia, Parkinson's? We have caregivers that have that type of experience. How is a family currently handled falls? Who is the main contact? Is there somebody local, or are we going to have to contact somebody further away? So the other important thing is that the company is asking you as many questions as you're asking them. So hopefully that kind of wraps it up. But sorry, to wrap up the home care, one, you want to make sure that you're asking plenty of questions and fully understand whatever you can do beforehand as far as checking out their social media and their websites. When you're with them, asking them questions that you really need to know. What's the pricing? What's the background like? What's the fill-in like? Ability to interviews, and then listen to make sure that same company is interviewing you, finding out as much detail so they're finding out the right caregiver, not just sending any old caregiver out there. So anyway, that wraps it up for today. We're at 20 minutes. I always try to keep it under 20 minutes and know how valuable everyone's time is out there. So thank you very much for listening in today. Today's question is, what questions do you have that you want me to answer for next week? I know it's a pretty basic question, but I want to be able to help you out as much as I'm able to kind of come up with different situations that I get throughout the week. But what do you really want to know? So you keep asking questions, I'll keep answering them. Have a great day.